Conversations, examining the games inspired by games. In this episode of Clone Conversations, we're not going to be talking about games, we're going to be playing them. We're going to go through the Aldo series and their predecessor, Ladder. I've already discussed these games in length in my previous episode of Clone Conversations, so just check out the annotation link above if you haven't seen it. Anyways, let's get to playing. Let's play the first Aldo game, Aldo's Adventure, and also the first game to the only game to truly clone the old K-Pro game Ladder. The first 7 levels of Aldo's Adventure are the same as the first 7 levels of Ladder. After that, Aldo's Adventure 1, as well as 2 and 3, Aldo's Assault and Aldo again, go into their own territory, which is pretty much fine. The original Ladder, being ASCII text, isn't exactly complicated, so it makes sense that the Aldo series would branch into new territory. This is Easy Street. A splash screen will show that it's also the first level of Ladder, Easy Street. That was a pretty quick level, so I didn't really have much to say about it. These first few levels are not really all that complex or interesting. Here's Long Island, again, second level of Ladder as well as this game. I will explain a few physics things about the Aldo games. One being that jumping is very odd. If you're jumping from a lower to higher elevation platform or ledge or whatever, you will fall through it if you're holding the controls. The key is to let go of the arrow keys right before you land on the platform you're aiming for, otherwise you'll fall through it. But if you let go of the arrow keys, you'll land on it. That little trick is very important to learn, otherwise you won't get very far in these games. There's treasure along the way besides the treasure at the end. The treasure at the end being the goal, basically. Treasure at the end, the big treasure chest, that ends the level. But the treasures along the way add to your points, as well as add to your time, which will count down over time. You see in the upper right, or the upper left, sorry. Basically, goal is just hurry. This is Ghost Town, third level of both Ladder and Aldo's Adventure. You'll see lava is introduced here. And lava is kind of interesting. You can touch it from the sides, you can touch it from the underside of it, if you're jumping up from it, from below it. But if you land on the center of it, or if you land on too much of the sides and too much of the bottom, you will die. It's a little finicky, so the best goal is just to try to avoid as much of it as possible, but it's hard to tell exactly what kills you involving lava. Barrels are fortunately a lot more self-explanatory than lava, because if they touch you at all, you just die, which is at least consistent. The Aldo series isn't exactly consistent. You may notice, I will interrupt myself, this is Vanishing Alley, which happens to be called Tunnel Vision in Ladder, as the splash screen shows. This is the only case where Aldo changes the name of a Ladder level, and I'm a little confused as to why they do that, because they don't do it any other time, so, any case, physics. First off, there's a little trick, an exploit there I just did. Jumping from a lower to higher ledge isn't always what the developers intend you to do. In that case, I just glitched my way up by letting go of the arrow keys at the right time. Pretty useful technique. That level's pretty much over too. Here's the point of no return. It's the 5th level of Ladder and this game. And now the levels are starting to get a little harder. An interesting thing to note is those thin pink platforms. Those are actually vanishing platforms. Kind of hence the name Vanishing Alley of the last level. I guess that's why the Aldo developers changed it, because they want to bring notice to these platforms. They disappear when you step on them, though if you jump you can keep them in existence. But yeah, once you step on them, you can't step on them again, or you'll fall through. Another thing that is kind of interesting about the physics in this game is your jumps are very odd. Beyond just going from a lower to higher in elevation, jumping in general, if you jump and then end up falling lower than the point where you started your jump, then Aldo will just fall straight down, and you can't control him until he lands on something. That can be really obnoxious at times, and you gotta be really careful. This is Bug City. This is the best level, I guess, for Aldo's Adventure and Ladder. And not a whole lot going on here. An interesting thing to note is that all the power-ups, the treasures, including the end-of-level treasure chest, are kind of half solid. Yes, you can pick them up if you walk right into them, or if you fall into them and hold the controls. But kind of like jumping from a lower ledge to a higher ledge, if you let go of the arrow keys before you land on a power-up, you can actually stand on it. This is kind of weird and at times kind of awkward, but it's also very useful at times as well. As far as using them as ledges when the developers didn't mean for you to. There's an example of how you fall straight down if you fall below the point where you started your jump, and that, in that case it was kind of useful because I was able to land just precisely on that little platform so I could get to the end. Here's Gangland. This is the 7th level of Aldo's Adventure, and the last level of the original version of Ladder. Being that this is the last level of the original version of Ladder, I'm guessing this is why the Aldo series at this point branched out after this level into its own territory. In fact, what I didn't know is that Ladder actually got an expansion pack at some point. I didn't even know the K-Pro had expansion abilities, but apparently it did, because Ladder actually got a whole other set of levels that the Aldo series never explored. I'm guessing because either the Aldo games were produced first, before the expansion existed, or they just didn't know about the expansion or didn't care. Regardless, it's not too big a deal, as we'll be seeing those levels when I do at the end of this video. I will be doing a playthrough, sort of the original Ladder, as I found a Java version of it online. But yeah, here's Dragon's Cave, and I'm stuck, and this is an example of weird item physics. As you see, it took a little finagling, but I eventually grabbed the treasure from below. That's sort of how this game works. It's strangely solid and strangely not solid, and there's an example of I jumped from just a little bit below that platform when I was on the ladder, and thus, since I was holding the controls, I fell all the way down. And that's exactly what you want to avoid. It's okay to fall from the top of the ladder if you're above the platform. It's not a big deal, but in that case, it was a bad deal. This is Dizzy Heights, original level, just like Dragon's Cave, the level before that, I think. Not a whole lot to say about it. Up, down, up, down. And, we've pretty much exhausted everything that Aldo has, except for one little feature. But here's the last level of Aldo 1, Blue Wharf. It's a fun level, I guess. It has a lot of ladders, and interesting, I guess. Interesting thing to note about the Aldo game is that if you run into the level text, more often than not, you'll end up making it disappear, which is kind of funny. And you may notice that I did that to my status screen as well at times, basically deleting my lives by running into the status display. We're going to see something very interesting, though, because even though this is the last level of the game, I'm still playing Aldo 1. And here's the reason. Now we're back to level 1, but it's like nighttime or something, and Aldo got old because his hair is gray and stuff. He also looks a lot more like Mario with a fireball in the Super Mario Bros. 1, not to mention. But basically what this is when you beat all the levels in any of the Aldo games, you get to go back through them, but they usually have a different color scheme, and you get less time. Basically that makes the game harder because you have to hurry a little more. For Aldo 1 here, that doesn't really make the game too hard, but the later Aldos get quite challenging on the second run of each level set. And technically at times the first set of each levels is hard too, so this is basically why this is pre-recorded footage and I'm recording my voice after the fact. The basic reason being these games are hard and at times extremely unpredictable. The barrels are unpredictable. How they appear from their dispensers is completely unpredictable, even for Donkey Kong standards. And the later levels of the Aldo games get pretty complex and interesting, but at times not very good for barrels in general. And the barrels can end up catching you in catch-22s, which really sucks, because there's no way to avoid them. Or the barrels can take their sweet time getting through an area or spawn at just the wrong rate, that you're basically stonewalled and gotta wait around while your time runs out, and you gotta wait for the barrels to get out of the way. As you notice, there's a lot of barrels on the screen right now. I didn't do anything for this game, but for Aldo 2 and 3, I will be limiting the barrel count to 4. It may not sound like much, it may sound like I'm copying out, but trust me, it's pretty necessary if you want to actually see me beat these games. But, yeah, oh, well, to reduce the barrel count, it's actually pretty simple. For any of the Aldo games, when you're entering the command lines, if you're actually running on DOS, or if you're running on DOSBox like I'm doing right now, basically what you do is, when you're typing in the name of the game to run it, press space, and then type in a number. And that number will be how many barrels you get on screen. Actually, the instructions for each game before the game starts, this tells you how to do that. Unfortunately, the limits, or the minimum number of barrels is 4, so I can't reduce any lower than that, but that's fine, because 4 is about the right number to have a reasonable chance of beating each game. I guess that's about all to talk about it right now. The later Aldo games will introduce a lot more, but this first Aldo game is pretty vanilla. It pretty much just takes Ladder's concept and goes with it. It doesn't really add anything new to the table. That will change when we get into the second game, Aldo again, which we'll be doing after this game is done. But first, we gotta beat the second run of levels here. Now, for Aldo 1, after you beat the second run of levels, it just loops back again, and it doesn't seem to change any difficulty, so actually, the second run of each of the level set is basically repeated infinitely for this game. However, I have it on good authority that the second and third Aldo games actually do have an ending. The trouble is, while I was able to find the ending for the third game, the second game is so hard on the second level set that I wasn't actually able to beat the second level set. But we'll get into that when I start playing the second game, which won't be too much longer. So right now, we're just basically going through the levels, and you may notice that basically the second level set of Aldo's adventure here, it basically just makes everything look like night and makes Aldo look like Mario with a fireball power-up. There's really not a whole lot to it beyond that. The later Aldo games will actually introduce some interesting color schemes at times for the second level set, which will be a nice change because this is kind of boring. And I'm actually kind of surprised I made that little jump. You have to be pretty pixel perfect at times. You can look like you're going to land on something and then fall right to the side of it. It's all just getting used to the game for the most part. Here's me exploiting how items can be stood on, well, once anyways, to avoid the lava in that case, which really helps out. I don't know if the developers intended you to be able to stand on items, but it sure helps out at times. Yeah, this is Gangland, and not a whole lot to say. The levels don't actually change in the second run, as far as I can tell anyways. The only difference is you have less time, which can make a pretty big difference, and in the case of the second game is the reason I can't really beat the second level set, because the times are so limited that you have to be, like, lucky, completely lucky with the barrels to actually make it through, which I usually don't have very much luck of. For instance, right now, I would like to climb this ladder, however the barrels do not like that idea, but I got up there eventually. Oh yeah, the music you're hearing isn't actually from the Aldo game. In fact, all the Aldo games, and of course the Ladder game being ASCII text, none of them have music, so I figured I'd splice my own in just to liven things up a little bit. Yeah. Not a whole lot else to talk about. We're just going through the second set here. And like I said, after we complete the second set, the game will just loop again, which is very unceremoniously of it. I don't know. Any case, this is probably the most boring game of the series, but even so, it's not really all that boring. It's just the least exciting of the three. And, here I screwed up a little bit. You may notice the time up there. It's pretty short. This will come into play, right now, because this perfect run of mine is now ruined because of that fall I made. Because if you'll notice the clock, 4, 3, 2, I missed the gem. That was stupid of me. Now I'm out of time. Lost a life. That's basically how the second game plays out for me. The time limits are so strict on the second game that I basically just die over and over again, thanks to timeouts. And the reason being is the barrels love to just stonewall you and make your time run out, and that's basically it. But at least we do get to see all the levels of Aldo 2, even if we don't get to see what happens at the end of the second level set. Though if somebody wants to try it, I would certainly encourage it, because I guess I'm just not that good of a gamer. But we're done with this level. So we're done with this game as well, so I'll see you guys in the second game. And now we're on to Aldo again, and Aldo looks like some sort of Christian art painting there with the sun behind him and all that. Anyways, this is Wet World, and right off the bat you can see that Aldo again, the second Aldo game here, has quite a bit more graphically going for it. You see a sunken ship down there. I can't remember what it says on it. Probably the Titanic. I can't quite remember because I'm using a small screen while I record this, so I can't see it. Also, I glitched the platform, you may have noticed. That leftmost ladder there, I basically used the jumping mechanic to jump right through it. So I basically skipped a large part there and I destroyed the ship before I picked up the treasure. That was fun. Alright, guess one. Second level. Yes, this is basically what it looks like on the 10. You don't know where any of the ledges are, so guess. This is one of those gimmicks that isn't really all that fun, but if you know where everything is, it's not a big deal. Though, I make this look easy, but honestly, it takes a lot of freaking attempts to figure out where all the platforms are. Fortunately, the entertaining thing is, on the second run of level, on the second run of the level set, the guest levels tend to be colored in such a way where you can actually see all the platforms, which makes it a lot more easy, especially good considering you have less time. Here's Lucky Philly. Here's one of those gimmick levels that is just one of those levels. You just kind of gotta have luck on it. Any of those dispensers could drop a barrel, and if I hadn't limited the number of barrels to 4 before I started this game, I would probably be dying left and right here. Because, as you notice here, at the top row especially, there is no way to dodge a barrel if it decides to come out of a dispenser you're jumping towards. Also, use of treasure to skip part of the level. It's always fun to do that. And there you go. Here we are. This is Maze Craze, as it says at the top, and what's interesting about this level is that there's actually several different mazes it can load up. This is like one of 5 different mazes it has, so just because you've played this level before doesn't necessarily mean you know where to go. It's kind of cool, actually. And here's me being utterly stupid and going the wrong direction. That's common. It's okay. You actually get quite a bit of time in the first level set, so it's not too big a deal if you screw up and waste some time. But as I figure out the actual correct route to go through here, I just want to say sorry for the sound recording quality of my voice. I have a cold, and it may be obvious. I'm trying my best not to make it obvious, but there you have it. In addition, I have a bad mic, and it likes to pick up all the wrong sounds, so there you go. In any case, I tried to compensate by moving the mic around and stuff, as I always have to do whenever I record. It's a big finagling process. And here's an example of barrels stonewalling me and I can't progress. And then you gotta make some daredevil move and hopefully not get hit by them. But at this point it's smooth sailing because there's only one dispenser, which basically means once you get past the left side of the screen on this particular maze, it's settable. There's a lot of different routes you can take if you like going to dead ends or if you like picking up treasure. Good for points. I probably should have bothered to pick up all the treasure I could possibly find in the first set of the levels in Aldo again here, because that would have given me more lives, and more lives means maybe I could have had a chance at completing the second set of levels. There's just something I could have thought about sooner, but oh well. Here's a silly little sign. And this is another guest level. And yet again, I can't read the damn sign because I'm recording in such a way that I can't see anything, but, well, yeah, you can read it. It says something like missing ladders or something, and basically the point here is that all the ladders are invisible, which honestly is easier than the guest one, where all the platforms were invisible. I'd rather have invisible ladders, because if you just hold up, you can find the ladders pretty easy. Plus the barrels give away where the ladders are when they go down. So there you go, it's not really all that complicated. Also, the dispenser is missing. I never noticed that before, but it's pretty obvious where that is too. And this level is an interesting one. And I died. Yeah, you'll see me die a lot more often at this point. It just sort of happens. You you see me here trying to take the short way, and considering it took me 3 attempts here, it probably proves I should have taken the long way. But, the long way is actually pretty easy, but obviously it takes more time. You may notice the barrels are kind of invisible. It looks pretty daunting, but you can actually see them anywhere, because when they're going down a ladder, they're visible. When they're on the floor, you can see them stick through the floor a little bit, so it's not really all that dangerous as long as you're paying attention. Here's Fireball. Not really sure why it's called Fireball, considering it only has 3 little bits of lava or fire. It's not really all that fireball-y. But it does have an interesting jump puzzle that I completely skipped here. Jumping on those little walls is actually kind of difficult, but if you fall right, you can land on the gold bar and totally skip that, which is nice. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot to say about this level. I did want to say that all the physics and controls are the same for this level, for this game, as they were for Aldo's Adventure, but Aldo's Assault, the 3rd game in the series, actually introduces a new feature, which I'll be explaining when we get to that game, obviously. Here's Frigid Air. This is a fun one. I think you can destroy that snowman if you walk into it, but I'm not going to bother with that. And you may notice that the snowflakes are not just background fodder. They're actually quite necessary to beat this level. And actually, this level is a pain in the ass. The snowflakes are nearly impossible to land on. They have like 3 pixels, or maybe 2, or even 1, that you can safely land on, and if you miss it, you miss it. And of course, you have to remember, if you're holding the controls while making a jump from a different elevation, you will miss the jump. So you gotta stop moving at just the right time as well. And there I go, messing up. Such an elevation jump that should have worked, but unfortunately, I was holding the control pad too much. And you may notice these jumps are long, so you have to hold the control pad for a long time just to make the jump. Meaning that you gotta let go right before you land on the platform, just a few pixels difference away. You may have already guessed, but this is one of my least favorite levels because of this. And here I'm just basically saying, screw it, I've wasted too much time. Let's try again. Now, this may not look like a very good run. Well, you're right, it isn't. But somehow I managed to pull out a win. After I lose this life anyways. And somehow managed to keep my lives for the last few levels, even though they're pretty hard as well. I don't know how I got lucky like that, but not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth. So you may have noticed that I actually had a timeout there on the first set of levels here. This kind of proves why I wasn't able to beat the second set of levels in this game. Because even for the first set of levels, the time is not very fair, not very long. And it only gets worse when you get into the second set and have your time like cut into 2/3 of what it was before. And there, I made that stupid jump. And we move on to this very weird level. And you basically have to know your stuff when it comes to jumping between elevations at this point, because as you notice, there's a whole bunch of jiggly lines, and if you make these jumps just wrong, that'll happen. What's funny about these is that down inclines will actually make you slide down, which is kind of funny because of how it works. Looks like Aldo is constantly tripping over himself. It's fun if you know what to do. It's not too hard, but unfortunately this is also that... Oh, I missed the jump, but the mountain counted as a platform, which was nice. But this is also the level that, quite unfortunately, is the one that I will lose at when we get into the second set. Spoiler alert. It's just, the time is so unfair. It doesn't look like it'd be that hard to complete, but the time is just ridiculous. And now the barrels are being ridiculous. And why do I have more than 4 all of a sudden? I don't know why, but the 4 limit on barrels doesn't always work, even if you set it in the game. You may notice that unless you jump, or have impeccable luck about not falling, because it's easy to fall at times, if you remove that pink platform too much, you'll make the level impossible to complete if you fall, which is really quite unfun. This is Icy Slide. It kind of works like Mountain Pass in the sense that it has inclines, but it's significantly easier at least, so it's not as bad. Also, a lot of blue. A lot of very bright blue. But the main thing that makes this hard is when you're making your lower to higher incline jumps, there's usually a ceiling, so you don't make a very long jump, so you have to be really careful about letting go of the control pad at the right time. Lest you fall through the platform, obviously. But it's not too bad, really. Here I'm trying to exploit, but I can't, so screw that. We'll take the long way. There's not a whole lot to say. I'm just sliding around, and there's actually little steps here, which is nice, because otherwise this would be a lot harder, and I barely made that ledge. Okay. And, there's not a whole lot more to say about this particular game. Aldo 2 is more interesting than Aldo 1, but not as interesting as Aldo 3. Aldo 3 is really the main treat of the 3 games. It has the most surprises, the most features, just introduces stuff. And we've done a loop. And this loop, this is unfortunately the loop I could never complete. And, oh, I got hit in the head. Oh well. Unfortunately about this loop, the time is so limited that it's hard to complete it without running out of time. And it's a real shame because, as Aldo 3 will later prove, and that letter almost killed me, as Aldo 3 will later prove, Aldo 3 has an ending. This means that Aldo 2 could possibly have an ending as well after the second level set. Or it could loop like Aldo 1. I'm really not sure. If somebody is enterprising enough to try to beat this game, I'll provide a link to a download of this game, and you can try your luck. And if you manage to find out whether or not there's an ending, please let me know. I would love a video response indicating such, if possible. And I would appreciate the help. Because, quite honestly, I am done with the Aldo series. I have played this to death, and you know, this is an after the fact video sound recording of my voice here. So, but yeah, I play these games to death. I'm kind of tired of them, and rather not play them again. I mean, I will if there's something really interesting to try out, but I think I pretty much showed off everything in these games. So yeah, but in any case, there will be a link on the screen if I can find one, and turn on your annotations if you haven't already, and you can check that out. And yeah, there's really not a whole lot to say when you're doing the second set of levels. I really hate this level, but I had really good luck on it for some reason. And yeah, you may notice that even on the second level set, not every level has a difference as far as its color palette. But you may notice here that this maze is different from the last maze we did. For instance, there's 2 dispensers. There's one in the middle and the right instead of on the left side only. And the maze is, of course, different as well. You'll want to pick up any easy-to-get power-up while going through the maze, otherwise you will run out of time. But it's really not that hard as long as you don't have horrible luck with the barrels. Fortunately, it seems my luck is pretty yikes. Okay, made it. Pretty decent luck. It's really a matter of don't lose your cool if there's a barrel right behind you. It's kind of odd. You can sometimes outrun a barrel and sometimes you can't. It's kind of a matter of luck. But, developers were pretty smart about these guest maps. They were smart enough not to change the color palette this time, which means that the ladders are still visible, but they haven't changed their location, so if you beat the level once, you don't really need to worry about figuring it out again, unless you just forgot, I guess. But again, the barrels reveal way too much to make this neat sort of challenge. And by deleting the visible floor just a little bit, made the barrels fall through it, because they can fall through things just as easily as we can, which is a nice thing. There's not much else to say, really. Here we're back to this level of, is it called Big Barrels? I think it's called Big Barrels or something. I don't really know. Also, I took the short route and actually got it the first time. Go Pro. Yay! I can't climb the ladder. That's another thing. There's no real way to jump around a barrel. I guess there's never really a way to do that in the original Donkey Kong either, but kind of annoying either way. Also, these little blue things, I think, exist solely to show off the barrels, but you can see them through the floor either way, so I don't really know why they bothered. Also, that is one weird-ass fireball over there. Likes the palette change. And just making that jump as far as you can will let you usually land on that little power-up, but not always. You may notice the power-up is actually randomized. That time it was a jewel. Last time I think it was a shovel or a gold bar. I can't remember. But in any case, it's easy enough to make such jumps, even up those little wall platforms, as long as you're good at the whole stopping your movement of controls before you land on something. You'll be fine. And here's a matter of, if I were to climb up these ladders, I kind of have to either take a guess or just wait for the barrels to go away. This part's actually a little harder than it looks, because the barrels could very easily go the wrong direction. And there's no way to jump over them here, so in this case, I have to like, oh god, run away. And climb back up. Unfortunately, I am also out of time, so there you have it. Very annoying, considering I was practically at the end of that point. But there's an example of why time can kill you. Because the barrels are just mean. They just exist in such an order that makes them hard to predict or get around at times. And also, that time, that was a gold bar, and actually, I think the randomization of the power-ups, the gold bars are easier to stand on than diamonds. I think I missed a diamond last time simply because it was a diamond and not a gold bar. The gold bar extends out further and thus provides more of a platform. Just an interesting thing I observed. And are we gonna get lucky? Which side will it go? The side I went to, of course. And the barrels don't really home at you, they just kind of go wherever they freaking feel like. But unlucky either way. But this time I think we'll actually make it, so yay! Barely make it, but close enough. Ah, frigid air. You look so much more blue even in the darkness. I don't know. But in any case, if anything, this makes the snowflakes a little easier to see. I guess that makes it, well, I wouldn't say easier, because now the time really matters, and I am pretty sure I have a death here, simply because falling too much equals death, because of time, obviously. But yeah, I personally, there I walked into a barrel. That's another thing, you just can never predict when it's safe to jump over that. I'll just say right out, the Aldo games are pretty frustrating at times. They're not always fun. I enjoy them. I enjoy what they do. Their attempts at, creating different scenarios, extending the Donkey Kong formula into different terrain types and different gimmicks. And that's all very admirable, even if they don't always work perfectly. Games are hard, but they're worth playing, I think. As long as you don't mind the fact that it's an old DOS game and etc. But yeah, and here's the demon level. Make a note of the time there. Notice how low it is. And notice how long this level is. And yeah, I'll be picking up power-ups, but just watch. Just watch at what happens here. You also may notice the barrels have a large range of just wherever they're gonna go, which is quite unfortunate for us. See, those letters, you can't jump through them. So if there's barrels, you gotta wait back here and wait for them to go away. And unfortunately, that's just not gonna cut it. I mean, you can still jump over them if you're good, but make a note of my time. That's right, I'm out of it. So we're done with this game. Now to move on over to Aldo's Assault. And now we'll play the third and last Aldo game, Aldo's Assault, with multiplayer. No, not really. But there are multiple Aldos for whatever reason. Your Aldo will change color between levels, and yeah. So predictably enough, we get to start with another Easy Streets. Easy Street 3, I think is what that says. In any case, it's like the Easy Streets of the other levels, in the sense that it's easy. It's not really a street, because if it was a street, it would be having really weird inclines and a lot of potholes. And treasure laid about, because I don't think you normally see treasure on the streets. But in any case, that was an easy level. And now we're doing To the Point, which which is quite to the point. I can skip most of it. And there's a little, these platforms are a little odd, they're inclined. You may notice moving platforms is a new thing. They have some weird physics you gotta keep in mind, such as, well, just don't move the controls when you're going towards them at all, because you could easily fall through them, perhaps even easier than the other static platforms. This is a fun level, City of Kong, where it's really impossible to tell what you can stand on or not. Here I'm glitching up this building. I guess you're supposed to use the elevator to get to the top, but I don't do that in this case. And here's an interesting thing, you can't pick up that treasure. Like, the helicopter blocks you from, but if you pick up this treasure and then make a jump, yeah, that's right, I just did a really high jump. Basically, when you start certain levels and when you have certain power-ups, you can make really long jumps, like I just did there, and failed. This is the main new gimmick of Aldo's Assault. If you pick up a power-up, you can make a high jump, for some reason. Or sometimes you just make a high jump right off the bat from the beginning of the level. And, basically you jump really high, and then after that your jumps are low again, so you gotta know when to use it. Ups and downs. This is really not a hard level. Even if you fall through the platform, they're so thick that you'll catch yourself anyways. So really you don't have to worry too much about holding, about letting go of the arrow key, because if you fall through a bit of the platform, you'll land on another part of it below, and wedge yourself inside, and you can just jump your way back up, as you can see me doing here. It's kind of weird, but it's pretty easy, so, yeah. Here is Haywire. I don't really get this level. Basically, if you know the physics about jumping, it's pretty easy to get through the different sections. Blue is actual platform, black is platform that's actually not real at all. And as you see, I'm basically wall jumping up the blue parts, which is basically required. So at this point, the developers are like, yeah, you know the jumping physics, so use them. This level is actually slightly deceptive about the route you're supposed to take through it, but it's not too hard. And then you got this little elevator thing that you gotta wait for. At least it moves fast. And there you go. And you're on it. And the interesting thing about the letters here. Lol, skipping things. Screw you, barrels. I'm just gonna jump on over you. And that's how you beat Haywire. And now we're on to Mine Shaft. You may notice these levels are moving a lot quicker. They have a lot of gimmicks, and there's a lot of shortcuts to them, and I basically know most of the shortcuts, so quicker. And, you got nearly invisible barrels again. Again, it's not really all that hard, because they are visible at all times, except for when they're falling through space. Because you can see them on the ground, you can see them as they're phasing through objects, but you can't see them as they're falling, which is the main danger. Like here, jumping over this fire pit, if you didn't pay attention, you could jump right into a barrel without noticing. Also, here's a place where a lot of barrels fall too, so you just gotta be attentive, as I'm doing here, just watching very carefully about the barrels. Not too hard, not too hard. And you just move along in a spiral, I guess you could say. Only thing really annoying is you can actually fall down that little pit pretty easily because the mine shaft letters get in your way, which is annoying stuff. And now we're in High Risers. This level, it's kind of annoying at times, especially the second run. Second run of the levels, this one can be kind of annoying, but I can delete all the letters. Ha ha ha! That was awesome. And here's basically another case of where you need to wall jump. However, unlike ladders, you can actually get around the barrels if you're clever about it, as I just demonstrated. Now, I'd really love to be able to glitch to the left wall there, but you can't. But you can at least skip. Oop. It's kind of interesting. You could stand on fire, but if you start shuffling around on top of it, you will die. It's sort of like, oh, you need to fall far enough into it to die, and it's sort of like mud, so it's not too hard to dodge. This part's kind of tense, because you're right above a dispenser while you're doing that jump. And here's the pits. It's kind of weird. There's gonna be, I only have the barrel limit to 4, but even in 4, there's too many, the barrels drop in such a random order that it's impossible to jump around them. So you have to delete a bit of the platform and make them fall through. They apparently aren't affected by the flame lava stuff, so that's nice. But you are, so you can't do the same technique. shortcuts. Basically the trick here is you gotta make them fall. It's kind of unfortunate because near the bottom it gets really annoying, but it's kind of required, and I fell in lava again. You may be noticing I'm quite the lava. You may be noticing that I'm quite the lava walker in this game. It's okay though, and here it kind of proves why it's okay to touch lava from the bottom, because look at that, just blue, 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 blue. I eat all the lava. It's okay. It tastes like chicken. This part is the most annoying part of any Aldo game, because these barrels normally will not organize themselves in such a way where you can jump over them. I got lucky here, and I can jump over them. Look at that! And now we're on to a very interesting place, Shadowland, also known as Guest 3. It has two names because it's awesome. And the trick here is the platforms aren't invisible, the ladders aren't invisible, you're invisible. And unfortunately, it's really easy to fall and stuff because you can't see yourself on the ground, unlike the barrels. The barrels stick through the ground, but your feet don't. So you have to guess where you are. Fortunately, there are objects like that light bulb that will indicate where you are. And honestly, this level's pretty boring to watch me play because it's hard to tell where the heck I am. Still, it's not too bad. You gotta jump over lava here. Well, actually, it is pretty bad. It's pretty hard. But once you get used to it, once you get used to the feel of when to jump, it's not as hard. And we're there, kind of. It's hard to tell where I am, actually. I don't know where I am right now, but hey, we made it, I think. Yes, we got it. There we go. And believe it or not, that's really it. We've looped the levels, so here's the second set of levels. With some pretty wicked color schemes at times. You'll see what I mean later on. But, yeah, here's Easy Street 3 again. Again, Aldo looks old, as he always does. I guess the stress of going through the levels gets to Aldo by the time he gets to the second set of levels, and thus he has only gray hair, because he's been so stressed out by the levels. I wouldn't blame him entirely, especially that stupid snowflake level in the last game. Actually, I rather like the level sets in this particular game. For the most part, they're pretty fun. Oh god, barrel. I like the wall jumping, especially, where you're supposed to actually climb straight up inclines, and it's possible because you can halfway go through the wall. That's always fun. Like this level here, basically you can jump in the windowsills. That's essentially how this building works, and then going through the roof just requires a lot of jumping. This level is deceptively hard, though, because the barrels, as you notice, kind of get stuck in that stupid crane, and it's hard to tell when they're going to go away or not. Of course, once enough barrels fall down, you may notice there's no dispenser for the barrels, so if you just wait a little bit, they'll actually just sit down there and no more will spawn, which is nice. And, yeah, so basically, grab the gem, make a high jump, and by the way, if you miss that jump, you're screwed and you gotta wait for time to run out. And here, I try again this jump. Basically, those moving platforms are situated in such a way, and I suck again. Those moving platforms are situated in such a way where you can just fall down onto them rather than jumping. Because if you try to jump onto those platforms, you'll use your high jump early and not be able to get to the top platform. I have gone to that top platform before, but apparently on this run, I just kind of sucked too much to get there. Oh well. And ups and downs. Those letters are weird colors. Oh well. And, well, yeah, you can still fall through them, these platforms, if you're being really sloppy, but like I just did. But for the most part, it's not that hard. A good example of how Aldo falls when he reaches his original jump point in Y coordinates, anyways. And this is sort of awkward. There's a barrel right next to me, but somehow I dodged it. Also, you may notice I have the most lives I've ever had in an Aldo game. I don't know if this game is just technically the easiest or just whatever. It's really easy to rack up extra lives, for me at least. Picking up power-ups and generally not dying. I would say the second game is the hardest, the third game is the most fun, and the first game is probably going to be the easiest game of the three. I mean, the fact that I can actually beat the second loop on the third game makes it obvious it's probably a little easier than the second game. I'm not the greatest gamer, I guess, but I'm not the worst gamer either. I'm somebody actually plays Aldo 2 and beats that second loop, so I can know how it ends. It'd be nice to know if it loops or if it actually has an ending. But yeah, here's Haywire. We're going through it. It's pretty much the same ordeal as before. Not really an ordeal, honestly, just kind of a long route. And Mine Shaft, which doesn't look that different, except for now the barrels are visible. Isn't that nice? Honestly, with the color palette changes of the second loop, more often than not, it makes the game easier than the first loop. With the exception of lower time. And look at this, I'm falling, but there's a platform. Oh, what the heck? But, generally the color palette changes are helpful, not hindering. This will become readily apparent in a little bit. But yeah, seeing the barrels is kind of nice. I mean, you could see them before, but this is much nicer. And it's falling on the treasure. See, barrels can treat treasure as platforms as well. Something to keep in mind in certain conditions, because if you don't expect it, you could get a little surprised. Yeah, that's that level. High Risers. I never liked this level. And it's actually kind of a long level to get through. So you can't really let the barrels waste your time too much. Or you will die. Just by time. Because time sucks in this game. But not this game in particular. Actually, they give you quite a bit of time in the third game here. Which is nice. And I kill High Risers. It doesn't need a sign. Go away. And we make our way up the platform. And there's no barrels to disturb us. That's nice. Yeah, and actually, the 4-barrel limit actually seems to work on this game. The last game on Aldo again, I definitely used that cheat thing to limit the barrels, but it didn't really do anything on some of the levels. In this game, it actually does do some stuff, which is nice. Part of the reason it's easier, probably. Trying to beat the pits with 6 or more barrels is ridiculous. Also, I'm stupid and I fell through and hit lava! But, we may see, I think, in this level that I am not always so lucky about barrel placement when it comes to putting them at the bottom of this level. As you will see in a bit. Probably. Can't remember. I think so. I think I have trouble here. Yeah. You may notice already that one decided to be a rogue. Well, 2 of them decided to be rogues and go the opposite direction. That's especially what you don't want them to do. That tends to offset them from the rest, and that can come back to bite you, as will be proven in a bit. Now see, understand that whole big dollar thing, or whatever, it can't be jumped through. And there's absolutely no way to dodge those barrels if you're under it. Now notice my little dilemma here. Barrel, barrel. Oh look, the barrel's right in front of me, but can I jump over it? No! All that time just wasted. I hate it when that happens. But maybe they won't be as roguish this time. Maybe they'll all go in a nice little single file order to the bottom and stick together in such a way where it's easy to jump over them. And maybe pigs will fly. Anyways, just let those things fall. Jump your way down onto lava. If there's one thing this game series is nice about, it's how forgiving the lava really is, as far as you standing on it. More often than not, if you're not panicking and shuffling about atop it, it won't kill you. Just have to be gentle. Of course, when you're jumping from one pit of lava to another pit of lava, that generally will kill you. Also, you don't want to jump through lava when it's at the bottom. And here I get lucky. Zoom! They stay together in enough of a pattern, close enough together, that I can get through. Also, guess 3, it's utterly broken this time because I can actually see my character. Holy crap. This actually makes this from one of the harder levels to one of the easier levels in just that small change. And this is why I like the palette changes, because of this. because of them making it easier on me. I don't know if they meant to, I don't think they did, but it's nice, either way. This level really isn't all that hard when you get past the whole invisible thing. The barrels offer very little resistance, so you still have to be careful. And that's it. Guess what, guys? We won! And Aldo may return, but he actually never does, because this is the last game, as far as I can tell, unless I don't know what I'm talking about. In any case, we will see you in a bit. And here we are with Ladder. That took no time at all. I love this whole new YouTube unlimited limit thing, or whatever I have. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, this is Ladder, for the most part. For the most part, this is a faithful recreation of the K-Pro's version of Ladder. That includes its expansion pack levels as well, which will be seen after the original set. This is the original set that you also saw in the Aldo's Adventure, for starters. But this was made on Java, and it was made by a guy named Stephen Ostermiller, and you can actually pick this up over at his site, ostermiller.org/ladder, which I'll put a link in the annotations. Pretty faithful recreation. There's only a few differences. It seems the controls are slightly different. Just the way the inputs work compared to the old K-Pro computer is different on a new computer like, you know, a PC. Also, invisible platforms, the ones that are the platforms that disappear when you walk on them, are a little different. In the original K-Pro version, even if you jumped over said platforms, they would disappear. But here, if you jump over a disappearing platform, it won't disappear where you jumped, which is nice. But yes, I think it's pretty self-explanatory what everything is. The P is the player, that is the lad, and I guess that's his official name, Lad. The V is the dispenser for the barrels. The barrels themselves are obviously the O's. What's the word? The asterisks are the absorbers of the barrels. The ladders are H's, the floors are equal signs. Walls are the straight up line, the vertical line. The dots, which we'll be seeing in a bit, are rubber balls. And what they do is they bounce you, which is oddly something Aldo's Adventure and the rest of the Aldo series never did. I think it's mostly because of the fact that, I guess just too hard to program or something. Anyways, this game's pretty merciless, and you may notice I'm just going through the levels after dying a few times. Yeah, this is not a serious attempt, because all I get really is loss after loss. The controls in this game are brutal. Like, seriously brutal. But overall, still pretty fun, I guess. Dollar signs are the treasure you need to get into level. The and signs are apparently gold statues, which give you extra points. The arrows are fire. You'll be seeing up arrows occasionally. Those are fire. Visible platforms are the little dashes. And I think that's about all the objects. Brutal game. Hard. Controls are awkward. It's still pretty fun just to challenge yourself and try playing. But I suck at it, so yeah, I'm just doing a playthrough of the levels. Here's Tunnel Vision, which, if you remember from Aldo, was renamed Vanishing Alley for some reason, but this level, in addition to the next 3 ladder levels I'll be showing off, are all from Aldo's Adventure as well, and then we'll be seeing the ladder expansion levels, which are just tacked on in addition to this Java pack, in addition to 2 other levels that were added by the programmer. One Chance and Plinko Palace, which are ridiculously hard. Obviously added by the developer of this Java version as an extra challenge. And another nice bonus that I won't be showing off is this thing actually has a level editor, which lets you make your own levels, which is pretty dang awesome, even if they are ridiculously hard. But, yeah, it's pretty much like Aldo's Adventure, except faster, harder to control. Your character never stops moving for the most part unless he runs into something, so it's kind of like playing Aldo's Adventure, but using a race car instead of a person. And you can't stop. yeah. Those are rubber balls I'm trying to jump on. They automatically bounce you, which is kind of cool, actually. And they can bounce you weird directions. For instance, I just skipped part of the level by using that rubber ball, which is cool. But then I fell on something, because I'm good at doing that as well. I linked to, in my Aldo's Adventure, in the part of the video where I recorded Aldo's Adventure, I provided an annotation link to where you can get a pack of the Aldo games, and I just recently here provided an annotation link to the Ladder homepage. I will also be providing these links to all these games after the end of this video set. Basically after I'm done playing Ladder here, which won't take long considering I suck, but there are a lot of levels to go through, and I'm trying to make a valid attempt here, even though you can see that I utterly just suck. You have grid movement, essentially. It's very odd and awkward, and honestly, it doesn't age well, but it's still interesting at the same time. So here we go, going on to try this one more time. I just can't give up so easily. I must try again. It's not a whole lot to talk about with these, though. They're pretty self-explanatory, and surprisingly, I rather like the layouts of a lot of these, a lot of the ladder levels here. Even if the game is ridiculous in difficulty. And you may just notice how fast barrels fall and everything. It's just like, boom, hit ya! And it's kind of mean that way. I wasn't sure exactly what the score was for Aldo's Adventure in the Aldo series as far as getting extra lives, but I do know in this game that it is 10,000 points to an extra life. Good luck trying to get even that many points, though, because I think you'll lose all your lives before you get that far anyways. Oh yeah, the physics for jumping and moving down and up ladders in this Java version of Ladder is a little different from the original K-Pro version as well. But for the most part, this is a faithful recreation of the K-Pro version. I'm really surprised. I found this Java version while I was browsing around doing my research on the Aldo series, and I was utterly surprised to see that somebody actually bothered to translate this game over into a format that a modern PC could play. It's worth a try if you don't mind subjecting yourself to the difficulty. And just have a sense of humor about it, because otherwise you might rage quit. I'm lucky I didn't. And normally I'm pretty calm when it comes to gaming, so yeah. Apparently, this is kind of unusual. These barrels, which are obviously barrels, they're not called barrels. Apparently the original K-Pro version actually calls these, Der rocks. Der rocks. D-E-R rocks. I guess I could see them being rocks, but I don't really understand the point of calling them Der rocks. Isn't it? I believe that's a German way of doing it, which is kind of curious, and I'm wondering if this game might have, German origins. But, yeah, the barrel things are Der rocks, what generates them are Der dispensers, and what destroys them usually at the bottom of the levels are Der eaters. And I apologize if I'm butchering that word. I have a cold, so bear with me. Also, you may notice the barrels are freaking unpredictable. It's like they'll stop randomly and then, like, decide, I think I'll go left now. And it's like, okay, that's really helpful. It's not like you're moving too fast to predict anyways. There's not much to say about these levels. I think I'll just mostly let the game speak for itself. I will say that Aldo's Adventure basically took the formula and made it easier. Even though the Aldo's Adventure games are still hard, they are much easier than this. I'm not really a fan of the ASCII text games. The most famous one, I guess, the most famous ones of current day media would probably be Dwarf Fortress and NetHack. I don't really like randomly generated dungeon games like NetHack, so I don't really play them, especially considering you can't, you die, restart the game. I kind of hate that death penalty. But, I mean, I understand why some hardcore gamers would love that. And do love that. Do love NetHack, and NetHack is amazing with its variety as far as what you can do. But I just can't get over the whole penalty thing. I wish there was a NetHack Lite from us less hardcore gamers that would allow us to, you know, continue to reload a save, maybe? I don't know. Dwarf Fortress, on the other hand, I kind of like that game. I haven't played much of it because the amount of input commands and technicalities are hard to wrap my head around, but that game is genuinely entertaining, I have to say. Here's Gangland. You may remember this being the last level in Aldo's Adventure that was related to the Ladder series. This is also technically the last level of the original vanilla Ladder before it got an expansion. And I guess this game sold pretty well, because to get an expansion, it would have had to have some money earned from it, right? So, the expansion set for Ladder includes only 5 more levels, but generally they're harder than the first set of 7 levels, so yeah, it's worthy, I guess you could say. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get any information whatsoever when it comes to Ladder or Aldo's Adventure or Aldo's Assault or Aldo again, because practically no information exists online. In fact, just me making these videos, I basically compiled all the information there is to provide for all of these games right in this right in this video, which makes my video the foremost source of information. Yay! Unless there's some source I totally missed, which is entirely possible. And if there is more information, please provide it, because I would love to supplement everything I'm saying with annotations giving more information if there is more information. Feel free to comment, share, whatever. I mean, I'd love that, so yeah. But yeah, I realize this game can be kind of boring to watch. I certainly don't hold it against anyone if they would like to skip through this section, but I hope you enjoy the music, because honestly, all these games are a lot less exciting without music. But yeah, let's move on to another level. Well, no, let's give another attempt, whatever. I don't remember how I played this. Shut up. Alright. So, yeah, it's a lesson of futility. This looks sad. I know I look pathetic, but before you throw your insults down, try it yourself. Really, seriously. Before you insult me about this gameplay, try it yourself. I will provide links. It's easy. You just download the Java version and it's playable right then and there as long as you have Java installed. And it's not very intensive on your computer or anything. I mean, look at this. It's not intensive. You can run it on anything. Go run it on a Windows 95. I don't care. But yeah, I don't know how to give up. Let's have a random cut to the next level. I don't know why I did a random cut. I think something crashed there, actually. I think my computer is being screwed up, but in any case, Idle Place. This is the first level of the Ladder expansion pack, or whatever it's named, because I don't have any actual data on this stupid thing beyond the fact that it's an expansion. It's fun. It's fine. It's all good. Idle Place. It's not very idle at all. You gotta keep moving. The barrel's kind of idle on this ledge, though. It's kind of weird. And there's a pit of lava. These levels are just unfair. You know, especially the expansion levels. Maybe that's why Aldo's Adventure never pursued the expansion levels, nor the other Aldo games. Because they're just so hard. I mean, long walk here. This is actually one of the easier ones, and it's not even that easy. Well, none of these levels are easy. Or I just suck. I don't know. In any case, barrels are weird. They will freeze in midair. What? I don't get it anymore. Here I try to jump on a wall. And it's possible to jump on a wall, just like Aldo's Adventure, but it sure is impossible to stop careening off of it. And I made it up. I feel good about myself. I feel good. I feel strong. I feel like I can go anywhere I want. Oh god, that's a lot of barrels. You know, if they wanted to have the character named the Lad, and that's all his name is, the Lad is seeking out treasure, and that's his goal. He wants treasure. But if he was called the Lad, why did they make him a P? I mean, I guess that stands for player, that's fine. But I would think an L would be better if you're going to call him the Lad. Also, you may notice that when you jump, you actually turn into a Q. Actually, well, that's a Q thing, actually. Face left, you're a Q. Face right, you're a P. I mean, that makes perfect sense in ASCII, but it's still kind of cute to me. Good use of technology, I guess. That's why they use the letter, because you can also see me turn into a G at times when I'm falling. Cute way of doing animations with ASCII, I have to say. I am really running out of things to say. Let's move on. Secret Road. Secret Road. It's a secret road. Secrets. It's also very hard. But that's to go without saying. You may have noticed, I do believe it was indicated at times, you may have noticed that some of these levels actually have different dimensions than the other levels. You'll notice it later on if you haven't seen it already. I think it showed up before, I wasn't paying attention too much. But yeah, some of these levels have different dimensions. The Java window actually resizes itself completely for these new dimensions as well. It's kind of weird. And actually, that's why I had to cut the video. I have to cut the video times to resize my recorder. Because the window resizes, so yeah. It's kind of weird. It's not a big deal. But rarely have I seen a game resize itself midway through playing it. Kind of unusual. And oh, look at this! I'm gonna make it! I'm almost there! Oh! I missed it. Actually, that's not even what I wanted to grab. What was I wanting to grab? I guess I want to grab the dollar sign. That's what you want to grab. That's the money. Not that the and signs are money too, because hands equal gold statues. Because the first thing you think of when you see an and sign is, oh god, that looks like a gold statue. Anyways, S&P. I don't know what that stands for. I would really like to know what that stands for. Super. I don't know, but this is S&P Advanced. Not for beginners. Not that any of the other levels were for beginners, but you know, it's the principle of the matter. So not playable. That's probably what it stands for. So not playable. Because it isn't. Well, not really. That's playable, actually. Ironically, this not for beginners level is one of the ones I can go further in than most. I don't know if that's just some sort of sad luck or something. I don't know. Also, I get confused a lot, as you may notice. Which way was it again? Dude, I don't remember. And yeah, that's a case of careening into lava. It's very easy to careen. Strangely, I have a very easy time jumping up those platforms, and then I get hit by a barrel, which is normal when you get hit by a barrel. And here's the next level. This is actually not from the original Ladder, nor its expansion. This is one of the levels that Steven Ostermiller, I keep thinking Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer, Wiener, I don't know the song. Oh well. This is One Chance, anyways. It's one of the two levels that Steven added in himself, using the level editor, no doubt. This one's annoying because, as it's indicated, if you go too far and then screw up, you've screwed up your one chance. There's also a truck for no apparent reason. Good use of ASCII drawing, though. This game's level editor has a good potential of giving you ASCII drawing potential. You can draw a lot of different things if you want. And it's a fun editor. If you like these sort of games, that editor can be pretty entertaining. You may notice I play on medium difficulty. There's 3 difficulties above this. I don't really understand how one could complete the hardest difficulty. I probably should have showed it off, but it's ridiculous. Just take my word for it or try it out yourself. Alright. Let's move on to the last level, Plinko Palace, where your only platforms are walls that are hard to stand on. Yay! I get lucky if I go anywhere in this level. Though I have to say, it's really entertaining concepts. I mean, Plinko. If you don't know what Plinko is, it's basically a game where there's a whole bunch of little walls, and basically you drop balls down from the top, or ball-shaped things, and they would roll down in random ways, down the little walls, down the little barricades, and the goal is usually to get into a particular area at the bottom of the playing area, and it's a fun little game, and I've seen it a lot on Price is Right. I like that show. But yeah, here it's not so easy because you're going to go against gravity rather than with it. Well, the barrels just decide to go anywhere on their merry way that they want to. So this level is definitely probably the hardest level in the game. I'd love to see someone try to beat this level. That'd be kind of cool. To be a pro. Anyways, we're done with this. So, there you have it. Aldo's Adventure, Aldo again, and Aldo's Assault, in addition to its predecessor, Ladder. I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay of these games, as well as their history lesson in my last Clone Conversations video, and I hope I brought these games to light. They're not perfect, and at times they're downright frustrating, but they were fun. And being clones doesn't make them a bad game, as my point is always to be made involving my Clone Conversations. Links to the games are available in the video description, as well as music credits, so please check it out. Thanks again, guys. See you on the next episode of Clone Conversations.